Hi guys, welcome back to Irene Tarot Art. I'm Ren, and if you're new here, I'm a Hungarian artist that used to be a fine dining chef. Now I'm a full-time artist living with severe Crohn's disease here in Victoria, Australia. In these videos, I like to share a painting that I'm working on that week, as well as some things that I get up to while I create that painting. I paint mainly from my imagination. I can paint carbon copies, but I don't like to just copy a picture or a photograph. I'd much rather paint from my own imagination and create things in my own unique style, which I call Renism. I hope all is well in your neck of the woods. Last week I did upload a video all about change, but I absolutely hated it, so I ended up scrapping the whole thing. And then this week I worked on this forest piece, which I called In the Thick of It, which I actually quite like how it turned out. As far as what I got up to this week, we had temperatures in the high 30s this week, so no hiking. On not too hot of a day, Jasmine, Jay and I headed to a plant nursery to buy yet more plants. And then we headed out to lunch together and I replanted the plants. We also had a family get together at my mum's house. I cooked up some traditional plum dumplings with her and we caught up over drinks with the fam bam, so that was good. Valentine's Day was also this week and I had quite a bit to do that day. It was a bit of a mixed bag of a day, so I'll share with you what that day was like. And I also included a traditional Hungarian risotto recipe. So you'll see that later in the vlog. I planned on painting a night scene this week, so I ended up blacking out some canvases. But being in oils, they needed time to dry and I really wanted to get going on a piece, so I just set them aside for future paintings. And I also had to edge and sign a few paintings. Then it was time to start this piece, and I first sketched the idea on some paper, which I like to do sometimes, sort of get my idea down on a piece of paper. And then, I got started with some background foliage, some background tree trunks and some groundwork. So Jazz and I are officially addicted to buying plants. We can never get enough plants, and she wanted a couple more for her room. I also wanted to replace one that wasn't doing so well in my laundry, so I wanted to buy a new plant for in there. So we headed to a plant nursery together. Then the three of us headed out to lunch, then back to our place. It was quite a warm day, but it wasn't too hot. So spent some time repotting the plants and some time out the back with the cats.
These ones are pretty.
I'm not going to have that in my room.
These are ugly. They look like they're dying.
definitely getting the bento and dumpling.
No, you said no.
We got countless chilies, hey. Some of them are so hot. Hey, Kimberoonie. So the little one we'll put in your sun pot, yeah?
Yes. Because that taller one is going to fit better in the taller pot, I think.
Yeah. Then the second layer on this piece was mapping out the tree placement, where the foreground trees would go, and then adding some dark greens in the background foliage, as well as a little bit of darks on the ground, which was sort of the underlayer to where the light would be. Yeah, this is my, yeah, this is meant to be like this. It's like wiry. We had another family get together this week. We get together quite often. So this week we headed to Mum's and we cooked up some traditional Hungarian plum dumplings together. She also made another traditional Hungarian dish for us all to have for lunch. And yeah, we caught up over drinks and food and yeah, hung out for a few hours. So that was a nice afternoon. Gyengén a vodkát.
Ja, nem súlyos. Ja, van ilyen.
Nekünk is gyengén.
Elmondta, hogy hazajöttünk, és végül állt neki. Előbb beugrottunk hozzád is.
Hozzám?
Igen, valami szerszámért.
Ja.
És Papinak is van, ahol van a...
Hozzá kell venni.
Nem, nem. Azt mondja, gyere, azt mondja, megmutatom.
Trinidad scorpion, it's one of the hottest peppers in the world.
And is that in your garden?
Nice and sweet, yeah?
How strong, yeah? Yeah,
And I only took like a
tiny bit. Yep.
Because I didn't go to the shop in one bit.
Why
Can you
would
grab
you?
the other lemonade, Georgie, please?
Yeah. Use the expired sunscreen.
Tony, weet je?
Oh, really?
Not
Let alone, you know, a food.
Perfect.
No, that's before coming, you know, for the...
She's screaming the bread.
The feet were sensational. They kicked ass.
But it's ham hocks.
How hocks?
Hocks are awesome.
Okay.
Then working on this piece, it was time to add in a lot more details. So all the background foliage detail, the various greens that went in the background, and then the light reflections on the foliage, and also some light in the background ground. So Valentine's Day was this week also, and I had quite a bit to do. I had to go out to the other side of Geelong and pick up some medical supplies. Then I had a bit of time to kill before my gastroenterologist appointment. So I went to a place that I tend to find a lot of great books at. I'm absolutely addicted to Harlan Coben at the moment. You might have heard of him from Netflix if you don't read books. A lot of his books are turned into series. He's a fantastic thriller novel writer, and yeah, so I bought a couple books and then I headed to my GI appointment for my government approval for my Stelara script, which is an immune suppressant medication for my Crohn's disease. My Crohn's has been flaring a bit lately, so I've got another scope coming up, but hopefully everything settles down and there's no surgeries in any time soon, because yeah, I've had enough of that. But yeah, it hasn't been too bad, it's just flaring a little bit. And then I grabbed some sushi for lunch and waited for Jay to get home. When he got home, we gifted each other, and then we got all dolled up and headed out to a nice fine dining restaurant for dinner to celebrate. Alright, stop one done. I've got an hour before my specialist appointment, so I'm gonna go check out some books.
Going up. Doors closing.
Anything different?
No, everything's the same. Yep. He just asked about how I'm feeling and all the rest. You. Yeah. Yeah. All right, I'm ready. Look good?
Very good.
Didn't want to film much during the night. It was a romantic evening, so that's why I only sort of took a couple quick snapshots of our dinner basically, and then I didn't film for the rest of the night, but it was a really lovely romantic evening. And then next on the painting, it was time to work on the foreground, so the foreground trees, all the foreground foliage, and a little bit of work on the foreground ground. Jay had a pretty horrible day.
Yeah, I bet.
The highway was like full of trees and stuff. He had to like weave in between trees on the highway getting home from the storm blowing over. So yeah. But we didn't get much of the storm here. There was only like 10 minutes of rain. That's all we got.
Oh, the wind was bad.
The wind was bad before though, yeah.
I went outside and I couldn't walk forward.
Oh wow, it wasn't that bad when we
I was
went.
pushing the paper bin and I just abandoned it. I just put it back inside because I actually couldn't push it.
Oh wow.
Because that's the lid that just flew up and hit me on the head. I was like, yeah, no, you can stay inside.
So this week I thought I'd stick with the traditional Hungarian stuff, and I decided to include a rizsás hús recipe, which just translates as ricey meat basically. It's just a peasant dish that we have in Hungary, but delicious nonetheless, that uses pork, but you can use chicken. We tend to use either or. I just use some pork fillet in this recipe. I say in the video that it feeds six large serves, but you can easily feed 8 people out of this. So if you're cooking for a family of 4, maybe half the recipe. But yeah, it was fantastic. So for the risotto, we need about as much onion as we have meat. So I'm using 4 small onions to 1 pork fillet. I've got 3 cloves of garlic, 1 small capsicum, a tin of diced tomatoes, lots of Hungarian paprika, salt and pepper, quite simple. So once you've chopped your onions, first thing you want to do is in a little bit of oil start sauteing them. Turn it to medium to low heat so they can collapse down nicely while we chop our meat and capsicums. Keep a close eye on it because you don't want it to burn, but once you've been cooking your onions for about 15 minutes, they should be nicely collapsed and saucy, and this is the secret to a really lovely sauce. So this is a very important step. Give it time, cook them out well. Then once your onions are nicely softened, we want to go in with the capsicum and let that soften a little bit. Then we want to grate in our 3 cloves of garlic. And then once that's cooked out for a couple of minutes, we want to go in with our pork. You can use chicken for this, that's a really common thing that we use also. Leave that little bit of fat on your pork fillet and chop it kind of small. And we want to go in with that and start browning the meat a little bit. Turn your heat up at this point. We want to get all of the meat nicely sealed before we go in with our spices and seasoning. Then we want to get a nice big soup spoon because paprika is the heart of this dish. And we want to add a heaped soup spoon and a half of paprika. Mix that through to get the paprika activated. Then we'll go in with our tin of tomatoes. And lots of salt and pepper. Don't skimp on the seasoning for this dish. You want about 2 heaped teaspoons of salt at least, because we're going to be going in with the rice, which is quite bland. I even go as far as 3 teaspoons since this is going to make 6 big serves. So yeah, don't skimp on the seasoning. Once that's all starting to come together, we're going to go in with 2 cans of water. Bring it to the boil, and once it's boiling, turn it down to a low simmer. And we're going to cook that for about an hour and 15, and then we're going to go in with our rice. So once it's simmering, just pop a lid on it, low heat, let it cook for about an hour and 15. So once it's been cooking for an hour and 15 minutes, it should be nice and saucy. So that's ready for the rice now. So we're going to go in with 2.5 cups of basmati rice and a can and a half of hot water. Then we may need to add a little bit more water as this cooks out because you want it to be saucy, a lot like risotto. So we're just going to bring that back up to the boil, and then we're going to turn it right down and simmer it nice and gently for about 15 minutes, stirring every couple minutes. And while it's cooking for an hour and a half, I didn't mention you need to stir it every 10 minutes or so. Just give it a bit of a stir and check on it. Make sure it's not cooking too vigorously. But yeah, we'll bring this up to the boil and then we'll simmer it. I ended up adding another half a tin of water, but basically you're looking for it to be quite saucy like a risotto. And that is ready to serve. We have pickles on the side traditionally in Hungary, but you can make any kind of salad to go with it. Serve it up and enjoy. Then finally on this painting, I just did some last minute fussing, adding some highlights to where the light would be hitting the trees and the foliage, a little bit of foreground highlights. And yeah, that was it for this piece. I'm really happy with how this one turned out. It's definitely another sale piece, not just a throwaway piece or a gift or giveaway piece. So this one will be for sale. But yeah, as far as this week's footage, that's all I've got. As far as next week though, I hope to get started on that night scene. If all goes according to plan, that's what I'll be working on in the following week. Hope to get out for a hike, something out in nature, but we have got some hot days coming up, so we'll see how we go. I might do a barbecue or something like that. But yeah, I hope that you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please give it a like and maybe leave a comment about what your ideal Valentine's Day would be like or what you got up to for Valentine's Day. And yeah, that's about it from me this week. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have a great weekend and that you have a great week and that you'll join me again next time. Thanks guys. Bye.